There is something fascinating about certain people. They grow older, but something about them never seems to fade. Not their appearance, not their energy. Something deeper. You can feel it when they speak. They still have curiosity in their eyes. They still get excited about small things. They still have something they want to learn, create, or experience. And the interesting part is, many of these people are not chasing youth. They are not trying to become 30 again. They have simply learned how to keep the most important part of themselves alive. Carl Jung spent much of his life studying the human mind, and one of the ideas connected to his work is that a person's inner world continues to develop throughout life. Growing older is natural, but losing your sense of wonder is something different. Today, we're going to look at 2 hobbies that often appear in the lives of people who remain mentally young after 60. These hobbies are simple. They don't require wealth. They don't require special talent, but they can give something many people slowly lose over time. A feeling that life is still unfolding. Before we continue, I would love to know something from you. What is one thing you still enjoy doing that makes you feel young inside? Share it in the comments. Someone reading your story might discover a new way to enjoy their own life. Hobby number 1. Creating something. One thing you will notice about people who stay young inside is that they rarely see life as something that is finished. They don't look at their age and say, well, my best years are behind me. Instead, they quietly ask themselves, what else can I discover? What else can I learn? What else can I create? That small curiosity is powerful, because the moment a person stops creating, they often start feeling like life is only about remembering the past. And memories are beautiful. They are treasures. But human beings were not designed to only look backward. We were also designed to imagine what comes next. This is why creating something can be such a powerful habit as we grow older. It reminds the mind, there are still new things inside me. Think about a person who plants a garden. From the outside, someone might say, they are just planting flowers. But they are doing something much deeper. They are caring for something. They are watching something grow. They are waking up each morning with a small reason to step outside and pay attention. They notice the first flower opening. They notice new leaves appearing. They notice changes that other people walk past without seeing. And that ability to notice life is one of the things that keeps a person feeling alive. Carl Jung often explored the relationship between the conscious mind and the deeper parts of ourselves. One idea connected to his work is that every person carries a creative energy inside them. It doesn't disappear because of age. Many people simply stop listening to it. When we are children, we naturally create. A child doesn't ask, am I talented enough to draw? They just draw. They don't ask, will people like my song? They sing. They don't ask, is this the right time to learn something new? They simply explore. Somewhere along the way, many adults trade curiosity for caution. They become afraid of being beginners. But being a beginner is not a weakness. It is proof that your mind is still open. I remember hearing about an older woman who started learning the piano later in life. She had always wanted to play, but she spent decades taking care of everyone else. Her children grew up. Her responsibilities became lighter. And one day she finally decided, I'm going to learn. Was she perfect? No. Did she make mistakes? Of course, but every week she sat down and practiced. And something changed. She wasn't just learning music. She was meeting a part of herself that had been waiting for years. That is the beautiful thing about hobbies. Sometimes the hobby is not really about the activity. It is about reconnecting with yourself. Many people think hobbies are only for free time, something you do when everything else is finished. But the truth is, a meaningful hobby can become part of your identity. It gives your days shape. It gives your mind something positive to focus on. It creates moments you can look forward to, and this becomes especially important after retirement. For many years, people wake up with a schedule. They have work, they have deadlines, they have responsibilities. Then suddenly, one day, the schedule disappears. And many people don't realize how much purpose that routine was giving them. A hobby can bring some of that purpose back. Not because you have to do it, because you choose to do it. Maybe your hobby is photography. Maybe it is cooking. Maybe it is reading. Maybe it is writing your memories down for your grandchildren. Maybe it is learning a language you always wanted to learn. Maybe it is simply caring for plants. The activity itself is not the important part. The important part is that it keeps a relationship alive, the relationship between you and your own curiosity. And there is something else about creating. It connects generations. A grandfather who builds something with his hands is not just making an object. He is creating a memory. A grandmother who writes down family stories is not just writing words. She is preserving pieces of history that could have disappeared. Sometimes the things we create become gifts we never expected to give. I want to ask you something. Think about when you were younger. What was something you loved doing before life became busy? Something you enjoyed before responsibilities took over? Maybe it was painting. Maybe it was dancing. Maybe it was playing an instrument. Maybe it was simply spending time outdoors. Tell me in the comments, because I think many people watching this will be surprised by how many dreams they quietly put away, and maybe it is time to bring one of them back. But creating is only one part of the story, because there is another hobby that appears again and again among people who stay mentally young. It is something simple, something many people underestimate, something that connects directly with the human need for meaning and connection. And that brings us to the second hobby. There is a quiet difference between people who simply pass through life and people who continue to experience life. The second group usually has something that gives them a reason to connect, a reason to share, a reason to be part of something bigger than themselves. And this brings us to the second hobby. Hobby number 2. Learning and exploring. One of the strongest signs of a young mind is curiosity. Not knowing everything, not having all the answers, but still being interested, still asking questions, still wanting to understand. Many people think learning is something that belongs only to children and young adults. School ends, work begins. Then one day people decide, well, I guess my learning days are over. But the human mind does not work that way. The mind stays alive through discovery. A person who continues learning is constantly giving their brain a message. There are still new things waiting for me. This doesn't mean everyone needs to go back to school. Learning can be simple. It can be learning how to cook a new meal, learning about history, learning how to use technology, learning about another culture, learning how birds in your garden live, learning how to take better photographs, learning a few words in a new language. The subject doesn't matter as much as the feeling of being a beginner again. There is something beautiful about being a beginner. When you are a beginner, you pay attention, you notice details, you become curious, you become patient with yourself, and that is something many people lose as they get older. They become experts at many things, but beginners at nothing. They know what they like, they know what they don't like, they know what they believe, and those things are valuable. But sometimes life becomes smaller when we stop allowing ourselves to discover something new. Carl Jung believed that a complete human life is not just about collecting achievements. It is also about discovering yourself, understanding who you are, understanding what gives your life meaning. And sometimes we discover new parts of ourselves later in life. A person might spend 40 years thinking, I'm not creative. Then one day they pick up a paintbrush. A person might spend decades saying, "I'm not musical." Then they sit at a piano and begin learning. A person might say, "I'm too old to change." Then they make one small change and realize they were never finished becoming who they could be. I once heard a story about a man who learned photography after retirement. For years he had spent his days working and taking care of responsibilities. After retirement, he noticed something. His days were quieter. He had more time, but he also felt like something was missing. So he bought a simple camera, nothing expensive, nothing professional. He started taking pictures during his walks. At first they were ordinary. A tree, a building, a bird sitting on a fence. But slowly something changed. He started seeing the world differently. The same street he had walked down for years suddenly looked new. He noticed colors, shapes, small moments. The world had not changed. His attention had changed. And sometimes that is what keeps people young. Not having a different life, but seeing your life differently. When people lose curiosity, life can become a repeat of yesterday. Wake up, do the same things, think the same thoughts, wait for something to happen. But curiosity breaks that pattern. It creates movement. It creates excitement. It creates little moments of surprise. And those little moments matter, because happiness is rarely one giant event. Most of the time, happiness is built from small moments. A conversation, a new idea, a beautiful song, a walk outside, a hobby you enjoy, a person you love. Think about someone you know who seems young at heart. What are they usually like? They are often interested in people. They ask questions. They tell stories. They laugh at memories. They enjoy simple moments. They don't spend every day comparing today to the past. They are present, and being present is a powerful form of youth. Now, I want to talk about something important, because sometimes people hear messages like this and think, "That's easy for other people, but my situation is different." And I understand. Life can be difficult. People carry losses. People experience changes. People go through seasons where joy feels harder to find. But one thing I've noticed is this. The people who continue moving forward are not people who never experience pain. They are people who continue making room for something meaningful. They allow themselves to enjoy something again, even something small. Maybe your life does not need a complete transformation. Maybe it needs one small spark. One activity that belongs only to you, something that reminds you, "I am still here. I am still growing. I still have something to experience." So far, we have talked about two powerful habits, creating something and continuing to learn. But underneath both of them is one important idea: engagement. People who stay young are engaged with life. They participate. They don't just watch the world go by. They interact with it. They touch it. They explore it. They add something to it. And this is a beautiful reminder. Age changes the body, but engagement keeps the spirit active. Before we finish, I want you to think about something. If you could wake up tomorrow and spend 1 hour doing something only for yourself, something that makes you feel alive, what would it be? Would you write? Would you paint? Would you learn something? Would you create something? Would you explore somewhere new? Share your answer below, because someone watching this might be sitting at home thinking, "Maybe it's too late for me." And your comment might be the reminder they need. There is something I hope you remember from this video. Staying young is not about pretending you're still 25. It is not about fighting every sign of getting older. It is not about looking in the mirror and trying to become someone you were decades ago. Aging is part of being human. The real question is not, how do I stop getting older? The better question is, how do I continue enjoying life while I grow older? And that is where these two hobbies become so meaningful, creating something and continuing to learn. They are simple things, but simple things can have a powerful impact, because they remind you that your story is still being written. A lot of people believe their most exciting years are behind them. They look back and say, "My best days were when I was younger." And yes, the past can hold beautiful memories. The first love, the first big dream, the adventures, the people who shaped us. Those moments matter. But there is something many people forget. The person you are today has something your younger self did not have. Experience, wisdom, stories, a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Your younger self had more time, but your older self has more perspective. And when you combine those two things, you create something special. Carl Jung believed that the later chapters of life were not simply about slowing down. They were opportunities for deeper understanding. For many people, the second half of life is when they finally begin asking important questions. Not, "How do I impress everyone?" but, "What actually makes me happy?" Not, "How do I prove myself?" but, "What gives my life meaning?" Those questions can open a completely new door. Maybe you have been thinking about starting something for years. Maybe there is a hobby you always wanted to try. Maybe there is a book you wanted to write. Maybe there is a skill you wanted to learn. Maybe there is a place you wanted to visit. And somewhere in your mind you keep saying, "Maybe someday." But sometimes someday quietly turns into never. And life is too precious to keep waiting for the perfect moment. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to be an expert. You only need to begin. A small step is still a step. Think about a garden. Nobody plants a seed today and expects a huge tree tomorrow. The seed needs time, water, attention, care. People are the same. Every new habit, every new interest, every new connection is a seed. And when you take care of those seeds, something beautiful can grow. So maybe this week, try something simple. Create something. Learn something. Give yourself permission to be a beginner again. Not because you need to become someone new, but because there are still parts of you waiting to be discovered. And before you leave, I want to ask you one final question. What is one thing you want to learn, create, or experience in this next chapter of your life? Don't just think about it. Write it in the comments. Your answer might inspire another person who is watching silently. Someone who needed a reminder that life is not over because a number changed. If this video gave you a new perspective, consider sharing it with someone who might need this message. Sometimes the smallest reminder can reach someone at exactly the right time. And remember, you are not too old to begin. You are not too old to grow. You are not too old to feel excited about tomorrow. The years behind you are your story, but the days ahead of you are still waiting to be written. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next video.